things. And this is a story that we don't have to cringe when we think about how politics are going, because the Marriage Protection Act now seems likely after the Democrats hold on to the Senate.
Tonight, a sigh of relief for President Biden and his party, winning control of the Senate for 2 more years.
The press and the pundits are predicting a giant red wave. It didn't happen.
With at least 50 seats and Vice President Kamala Harris's tie-breaking vote, Democrats now control the upper chamber, regardless of the outcome of Georgia's Senate runoff slated for December 6th.
Are you ready to do this one more time?
They said we're in overtime.
Holding the Senate gives President Biden and his party control over the legislative agenda there, and critically, judicial confirmations, including if another Supreme Court seat opens up.
Well, after close victories in contests in Nevada and Arizona, Democrats are going to keep their narrow Senate majority for the next 2 years. Democrats defied historical trends and defeated several candidates backed by former President Donald Trump and keep control of the Senate. In Arizona, Democratic Senator Mark Kelly, a former astronaut and also the husband of former Representative Gabrielle Giffords, defeated Republican Blake Masters. In Nevada, Senator Democrat Catherine Cortez Masto, a former prosecutor and state attorney general, defeated Republican Adam Laxalt. Retaining Senate control is a huge boost for President Biden over the remaining 2 years of his term in the White House, with, with one more Senate race outstanding that will determine the final balance of power in the chamber and how much leverage the president's party will ultimately have. That is the special election between Raphael Warnock, the incumbent, and Republican Herschel Walker, and that's going to be held on December 6th. Democrats will have the ability, no matter what the outcome of that, to confirm Biden's judicial nominees, avoiding scenarios such as the one President Barack Obama faced in 2016, when then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell refused to hold a vote on his Supreme Court nominee Merrick Garland. It also means that Democrats can reject bills passed by the House, which is most likely going to go to Republicans next year, and set their own agenda. This seems the ideal scenario to pass the Marriage Protection Act. And the Marriage Protection Act is going to be different, slightly, a little bit more conservative than the one that moved out of the House over the course of the summer. But I think that they're going to let good not be the enemy of perfection. And it means that we've got 10 Republican votes that are at least going to let it come to a vote. Because you can't do anything in the Senate without 60. Democrats have 50. But if they're calling it for a vote, it's definitely going to be 60. I think the only question is, when are they going to hold the vote before the end of the lame duck session in December?
And we actually just found out that Majority Leader Schumer has called a cloture vote for this Wednesday on the Respect for Marriage Act. So they seem to have a lot of confidence that they have the 60 votes to pass this. And we really need to give a lot of credit to President Biden for protecting LGBTQ marriage equality, not only protecting it, but making it a reality in the first place. We have to remember that when he was vice president, he came out before his president, Barack Obama, and endorsed same-sex marriage. As a Catholic, that's very, I'm a gay Catholic. That was, you're taking a big risk in the Catholic Church if you're taking that stance. And he deserves a lot of credit for where we are today.
Yeah, I remember that. I had actually forgotten about that. And that was big. That was big because I think even Obama at the time wasn't coming out in full support.
No.
And
he waited for a second.
Yeah. And then he came out.
What he
And then he used the words that he evolved, right? That is that he had been been thinking about this for some time and then was struggling with it. I mean, there was kind of an open discussion, but Biden was such a key part of that move.
See, I don't believe that. I think Obama was always in support of gay rights, but he just didn't admit it until the second term.
I agree with you. I think he always supported our community, but he was trying to keep it kind of low key.
He knew what he had to say. He knew what he was doing.
And let's keep in mind, let's keep in mind that this does not totally protect marriage equality. What it says is, this really defends more of the Windsor decision than the Obergefell decision that came a couple years later. If for some reason the court Justice Thomas has his way and the court overturns marriage equality, states like Florida could still ban it, but the federal government would still recognize your marriages if it was performed legally in a state. So if it was performed before it's overturned, if it's performed in Massachusetts or New York or any state that has it, the federal government will still protect it. And as much as it pains me to ever give credit to Senator Mitch McConnell, you have to give him a little bit of credit on this too, because he's allowing this to be a free vote, which means the Republicans are not whipping the caucus to force them to vote against it. They're letting them vote their conscience. So it's a conscious vote or a free vote. So by letting them do that, this is actually going to pass.
Thank goodness. Oh, sorry. Yeah, but thank goodness, because, you know, when with the whole Roe v. Wade, I said this was a 50-year law, and if that can be turned around, then gay marriage could start. So I'm so happy that this is happening. You know, at least it'll be some sort of protection, you know?
And two quick points. Has this year, more than any other year, proven to everyone, if you didn't know it already, how important judges and the courts are?
Yeah.
And just the impact that Democrats maintaining hold of the Senate for the next 2 years is going to have on reshaping our federal judiciary in protection of LGBTQ people is super important. Not to mention the fact that I think even passing the Respect for Marriage Act, even in its current form, is going to put a lot of pressure on the Supreme Court to not touch the issue. And this is why. Because marriage in the United States is a state's issue. It is not a federal issue. If you are a heterosexual couple or any couple that is married in the United States, the only reason you don't have to go get married in every single state is because the 14th Amendment of the Constitution offers the full faith and credits clause, which says that, we are going to give full faith and credit to a legally binding document in this state and our state as well. It's going to put a lot of pressure on the courts to have to recognize same-sex marriage that is performed legally in one state in another state. It's just going to be very, very difficult to untie that knot.
It would be almost pointless for a state to ban it when the federal government is still going.
Well, I just have to say this about Thomas. I'd like to sit down and have a conversation with Judge Clarence Thomas, and I'm multiracial. If he's, in the business of overturning laws, why don't we take a look at Loving versus Virginia? That would hit home for him. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to go there with that law.
Well, we've got 2 more years, so Justice Thomas, go towards the light.
All right.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.